bit about my writing and illustrating routine. I love hearing about other artists' routines, so much so that I actually made a whole podcast series called Creative Rituals. And in it, I talk to all kinds of creative people, artists, illustrators, writers, photographers, musicians, all about the ins and outs of their creative routines. And yeah, I'm just a bit of an obsessive nerd when it comes to this stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely go and have a listen. And I think I'll be bringing out a new series at some point later this year. But for today, I thought I could tell you a little bit about my routine at the moment. It's kind of, changed over the years, but at the moment I do feel like I'm in a really good place with my work routine. And obviously it goes without saying that this is not every day. This is on an ideal, perfect day where everything's going right and I'm feeling motivated and disciplined. And I am only human. I have some days where I get up late, things don't get done, it doesn't quite work out like that. So this is very much an ideal working day for me at the moment. I'm going to be going into granular detail, so if that's something that bores you, probably just switch off now. But if you're like me, I love getting into the nitty-gritty of other people's routines. So we'll just get straight into it. I love starting the day at what a lot of people call the witching hour. So getting up at a time when I feel like the world is just waking up and I can kind of get a head start on the day in that way. And I usually start my day by heading straight into writing. I know a lot of health professionals might say, no, the worst thing you can do is get up and go straight into work. You should start the day slowly, but this is just something that I find works for me. I like to have an hour of free writing first thing when it's still kind of dark outside. I'm not quite awake or quite asleep yet. So I feel like creatively that's a time when your subconscious is really powerful. I've not had time to go on my phone yet. No gunk or anything has got into my brain. And I feel like that's a time when my inner critic is the most quiet. Often when I start writing later on in the day, there'll be a voice there going, this is no good, this is no good, this is rubbish. Whereas when I'm kind of just a little bit asleep and I'm just getting out words, not thinking they have to be good words, but just getting out what comes to me, that for me is a really nice start to the day, because then I've got something to work with later, something that I can mould and shape. I don't know if I've actually mentioned in any of my other videos before about my writing, because obviously I introduced myself as an illustrator, which is my full-time job, the work that I get paid for. But writing has become a big part of my practice too over the last year and a half. And because it's something that I'm not yet paid for, I find that getting up early and doing my writing first thing means I get it done before my working day as an illustrator starts. So if I leave it to the afternoon, the odds are I'll get carried away and caught up in my illustration work and the writing just won't get done. So that's another reason why I choose to do writing earlier on. So at the moment, I'm probably getting up around 6:30 and writing from 6:30 till 7:30. And I'll actually just write in bed. So I'll get my pyjamas on, I'll get back under the covers with my laptop and just kind of be bashing out words, as I said earlier, without them being perfect words. At the moment it's just getting ideas out onto the page. If I'm lucky, Ted might bring me a cup of tea in bed, which is always nice. And then at 7:30 we like to get outside and get some movement in. And this has become such an important part of my routine, genuinely, because I think it was 2024 I had a year when work just took over my life and movement was the first thing off the list to go. I just genuinely didn't move my body. It was terrible. I just became completely work obsessed, and I still am very ambitious and driven, but I just value things like rest, health, my well-being a lot more now. So having that hour in the morning after I've done a bit of writing to get outside, we'll either go for a walk or sometimes we'll do hills training, which is basically where we run about 10 minutes to this hill in our village and then we'll walk up and down the hill 6 times and then run back. or we'll go to the gym and do strength training, and we kind of alternate that, so it's something different every day. And that means I've been able to be consistent with my movement for about 4 months now after getting married, which is ironic. I know most people get in shape before their wedding, whereas I've got into my fitness after, simply because I was just pretty manic before my wedding, trying to get all the illustrations done, everything done. Yeah, it was a lot, but I'm feeling, yeah, just good in my body, in my health at the moment, and that's a big part of my routine. So once we get back at about 8:30, I'll have a shower, have some breakfast, and then at 9 o'clock I'll go back into another hour of writing. And this hour of writing is kind of shaping up everything that I've been writing out in a blur in the morning. So it will all be kind of foggy notes in the morning, and then the second hour of writing is pulling all the threads together and making something a bit more polished. And I set myself a daily word count goal of 500 words a day, which might sound tiny, that is not a lot. But I have found if I set myself a big goal, I just won't do it, especially if you've got a full-time job as well. And it's so much better to do something rather than nothing. And also I found how amazed I am at how quickly those 500 words a day add up. For example, the current project that I'm working on, I've been maybe writing for about 2 months, and you think, oh, just 500 words a day. But then I scroll back and it's like pages and pages now, just from doing those little bits every day. So that is another tip of mine, to set your goal to something really small, because then you're so much more likely to achieve it. And then from about 10 till 12, I'll then get on with my working day as an illustrator, so starting my illustration projects. And at the moment that looks like mainly book covers, and I'm at various stages on all 3 of the different covers that I'm working on. So in one cover I might still be on the pencil rough sketches, and another I'll be working in colour. And yeah, I feel like I quite like juggling things at once. I'm definitely a manifestor generator, if you've heard that saying in human design. And basically I think it kind of means creatively someone who has fingers in a lot of different pies. So I do think I work well working on multiple things at a time, because it keeps my brain and my creative spark interested. And unlike with writing, where I need everything to be silent, with my illustration I like to kind of create a little soundscape for myself. So putting on some of my most comforting podcasts, audiobooks, those things really help me slip into that flow state where I can just get lost in the work. And then at about 12ish, I'll maybe have about half an hour where I'll just sort through any orders that have come through from my shop and get them all packaged and ready for the post office. So today I've got this big print of London. I don't know if you can see it there. It's a big A2 size print. This one I actually illustrated a few years ago as a Christmas card. You can see it's London with all the Christmas lights. But someone got in touch with me recently and asked if they could have it as a big print, and I said yes, that's something that I'm more than happy to do. There's lots of prints and cards and things like that in my shop, but anything that's not on there that you've seen on my Instagram, just feel free to get in touch, and 9 times out of 10 we can make it happen and I can make it into a print for you. So I'm going to be packaging this one up today, and then there's been another order for some of my note cards, which I think I made these last year. Again, I think someone actually requested a pack. They were like, oh, do you sell an assortment of all your prints as a pack of note cards? And I was like, no, but that's a really good idea. So these are my cards. I'll show you them one by one, and they're just for no occasion really, which I think it's super helpful to have those kind of cards in the house that you can just grab. I cannot count the amount of times where I've rushed to the shop in need of a card and everything there is just rubbish. So they come in an assorted pack, all the colours of the rainbow, and with ballet slipper pink envelopes, which I love. So after lunch, I'll head to the post office, send off all my orders, and then once I get back, I kind of lock in for another solid illustration session of usually about 2 hours, from about 2 till 4. And by about 4 o'clock, creatively, I find I'm pretty much wiped and spent, and I've learned to really listen to that. And if I've not got the pressure of deadlines, I will stop around 4, and I don't feel any guilt about that anymore, bearing in mind I've started my working day at 6:30, so 6 hours of solid creative work, and by that I mean writing and illustrating. And then on top of that, I've got all my admin-y bits like packing orders, going to the post office, emails and admin, sorting out all my things for Instagram and YouTube. And I do have quite a strict rules myself that I'm not allowed to work on things like Instagram and YouTube until I've done my writing and illustrating for the day, because as much as I enjoy those things, they are quite time consuming. Once you start on it, you do get sucked in and time goes like that. So then I'll feel guilty if I've not done any writing or any drawing that day. So yeah, I do have this rule where I must get my writing and my illustrating done before I can do any of the extras. So that is my writing and illustrating routine. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it, and let me know if you have any questions, routine based or otherwise. I think the next video I'm going to do is an illustration Q&A. So yeah, any questions on routines, the process of making book covers? I know someone on YouTube asked about agents, and I can definitely talk about that. Maybe let me know if there are any specific questions. I can talk about what it's like to work with an agent, how I personally went about finding one. Feel free to ask me a bit more about my writing practice as well if you'd like. Yeah, I'm excited for it, and I'll see you there.